Kansas City this past weekend. I met Ryan and Aaron and their kids.
I heard it was that just like a quick little trip for you or what?
Yeah, very quick. Couple days is all. We had a lot of stuff going on, and we actually met the McDowells last year in Chicago. DLF had kind of a get-together for a live draft, and it was a lot of fun. And we said, hey, next year we should get next summer, and everybody's weekends were problems. And they were planning a vacation, and we kind of crashed it halfway. Met them in Kansas. They invited us to come down, and we were like, well, we can do it, but it'll only be like a leave Friday, back on Sunday thing. But it worked out. It worked out good. It was a lot of fun. I got to meet Eric Dickens. Nice. And his family. They were cool. Lots of fun talking to Eric. Eric's he's exactly the same in person as he is online.
I would imagine he was.
Yeah, definitely. And then James Simpson came, of all people.
He's English, right?
Yeah, he's English. He was planning a trip to the States this summer and happened to be on Twitter one day and said, hey, when should I come over? And McDowell said, me and Myler are getting together in Kansas City. You want to come? Half kind of like sarcastically, like you're coming over for that. Yeah, nobody's coming for that. And he's like, all right, I booked my flight.
My God.
Yeah, so that was cool. He's a really cool guy. He's a cool dude.
Is he?
He's got big dreams of being like the Adam Schefter of English NFL writers type.
Really?
Guy. Yeah, he really does. And he's got interviews lined up. He's trying to be the guy that people in England look to for NFL American football information. That's what he wants to be. Yeah.
That's actually a great idea.
Oh, it's a great idea.
I mean,
when he told me that nobody covers it over there, and it's a huge deal when they go to London and play the 4 games that they play. It's huge.
Oh,
but they just pick up like American content, and there's one writer over there that like does it in season and just around those 4 games. But he wants to kind of get in on that. So
that's a great idea. Good for him.
Excellent idea. Yeah. So he's like, people in England, just like if he was over here trying to be a writer about the NFL, a lot of Americans would roll their eyes and say, why should I listen to this Brit? This Brit doesn't know anything. And like over there, people kind of roll their eyes like, yeah, it's American football, but give me one of my guys. Why doesn't anybody I know talk about it? So
that's great. Shit, man.
So he's actually this coming week, right before the 4th of July over here, that doesn't matter over there.
That's true.
He has his interview, so I'm going to try to touch base with him and see how it goes. That's
who's he? You know who he's interviewing?
Like it's called Sky Sports, which I guess is the equivalent of ESPN over there. It's like,
is that what that is? Because I saw somebody was like, was it him that had an article at Sky Sports?
Yeah.
Okay,
and it was a big deal. That was a huge deal.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know why he's so excited. I don't know who these people are. I was just like,
I've never even heard of that.
Yeah. I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's only a big deal over there, I guess.
Wow. Sky Sports, okay.
Yeah, I did a Google search, and it seems like a big deal over there. So I was the same way. I never heard of it. Good for you, buddy.
It's just like, good for you, man.
All right, so let's get into this. I'm going to do a really short intro, and then we'll jump right into last year's rookie class. Do you want to do it backwards, or do you want to start in 14? I figured it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter to me. We can start. Might as well start. I kind of
like one of the guys I want to talk about big time is Treadwell. He's kind of
he's a hot topic.
And everybody, there are so many different philosophies. There are so many people out there that think, oh, he's a bust. You just write him off. And then others that think, man, it's a perfect buy now. So I thought he was a good one to talk about. And, we'll probably breeze through. Like once we get to the second round of each one, we'll do them in groups. Like I'll mention all of them and just kind of throw it to you. Is there anybody you want to talk about type thing? And then, the main focuses are probably in round 1. And then I'm sure you noticed I threw in some late round guys that the big surprises, the Dak Prescotts and Ty Montgomerys and all
Ty
that stuff.
I figured you'd throw a Ty Montgomery in there.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry I had to take him away from you in KS2, buddy.
Yeah, come on, dude.
It had to be done.
Yeah. Well, I knew you were gonna, but I was gonna at least make you spend as much as I could.
I know you did, and you totally did. I spent
Not that
everything.
Yeah. Well, it's that money isn't worthless after this draft or after that auction, but man, it doesn't feel great to come out of that with a whole bunch of money.
No, exactly. Like
I'd rather have zero and be like, sweet, I got the guy I wanted.
Exactly, and maybe hit on some zero guys that you pick off, first come first serve sort of thing. Yeah,
exactly. And having $500 is good if you hit the guy that comes out of nowhere. If you hit Ty Montgomery next year, if you get that, or
like a Tyrell Williams last year,
yeah, exactly. But the thing is, some people got Tyrell Williams for $1 the week before,
exactly,
for nothing,
exactly.
So you can do it without any money, but you
just got to be kind of ahead of the curve, really.
Ahead of the curve when you don't have any, and when you have a lot, you feel like the pressure is on to make that money worth it because you didn't use it when you had, when you had a chance to get somebody.
And that's funny because that's what we talked about in our auction episode, basically.
Right? Yeah.
You got caught holding the bag,
Yeah, and I hate that feeling, and I don't like the pressure of it. I'd rather be the guy trying to snake a guy for $0 or $1.
Exactly, me too.
Because then you feel so good, and if you get nobody, you weren't supposed to anyway.
Exactly, it's like just kind of sneak one through. You feel like you won the auction already.
Right, exactly. Yep. So, all right, let's do this. You ready to record?
Pull
that thing out.
I will pull that thing out.
Let's see how many that's what she said you can
you just put them on a tee for me, man. Okay.
I'll try. I'll see what I can do.
I'm ready.
Okay, record in 3, 2, 1, record. Welcome to the DLF Dynasty podcast. It's podcast number 260 this week, and I'm sorry you don't get the good hosts this week. You get me, Dan Myler, and I get the good analyst though. It's Chad Scott. Chad, how's it going? It's going.
Maybe we should have flipped these roles because I think you're probably a better analyst than me, but you're still a better host than me too. So I've gotten some feedback going both ways on Twitter and other places. So I'm not really sure where I fit in best, but I'm going to try the host thing. I think you're great at both, Dan. Oh, well, thanks, buddy. For those of you expecting this podcast to be downloaded earlier in the week, you can ask Chad on Twitter how women's underwear affected when it got released. Hit Chad up at Chad_Scott13 for the story on that. We'll just leave it at that, Chad, and see how many tweets you get asking what the heck that's all about, huh? Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
All right.
Mentions, yeah.
You and I were talking before we hit record tonight, and both of us are a little bit exhausted with the whole rookie talk. How much I love the 2017 draft class. Everybody does. And a lot of us have loved it since 2013 or so. Right. But we're kind of tired of talking about it. So we're gonna jump in the time machine and do a flashback episode looking back at past rookie drafts, just the last few years. Try to collect some thoughts between yourself and me on some of these players that have boomed and turned into superstars in our dynasty game, and then some of those busts and undervalued guys now that we still believe in or we're selling completely and trying to get pennies on the dollar after spending that high first-round pick. We thought we'd start with last year's draft, the 2016 NFL draft class, and talk a little bit about how these guys have done through one season in the NFL and what we expect going forward, how we should approach them as dynasty owners. So let's start right at the top. We'll roll right through round. We're going to try to do all three rounds for the last couple of years and just gather some quick thoughts on these players. Let's start with that number one pick last year. I'm sure he went number one in every draft.
Ezekiel Elliott, there's not a whole lot to talk about here, Chad. A top dynasty pick. He's a top, obviously the top rookie pick last year, one of the top running backs out there. What are your thoughts on Elliott, and how should we be approaching him as dynasty owners going forward?
Yeah, I mean, this was the case of, it was the easy 101. It was the safest 101, and he's basically cemented that thought in the dynasty community. I think there was no other 101, and I mean, still to this day, I mean, you can make an argument for maybe Michael Thomas being the 101 at this point, but I think Zeke Elliott is the 101 then and now, and I wouldn't question anybody otherwise.
Yeah, I don't think so either. There's really not a lot of conjecture there. There's not a lot of question marks surrounding Elliott. That's an ideal landing spot. And if you own him, it's going to take a big haul to trade him off at this point, playing behind that offensive line. The question marks start coming after that. I went by August of each year's ADP when I put this together. So in August of last year, Laquan Treadwell was the second pick according to ADP. And that there was a lot of question marks surrounding Treadwell, but for the most part, most of us really liked him. I know I felt that before Zeke landed in Dallas, I thought it was a question mark who was the number one pick in rookie drafts. I thought Treadwell belonged in that conversation. Now, after the draft, things changed a bit, but Treadwell's a really interesting guy. The lack of production in his rookie year, I think he's an obvious buy low at this point. At rookie draft season here about a month ago, you could get him for a late first or early second round rookie pick, and that seems like an easy buy to me. What do you think, Chad?
Yeah, I mean, they've spent some draft capital on him. We saw what he did, in 2014 at this point at Ole Miss. Then he, towards the end of the year, he had that horrific injury. And 2015, we didn't see the same Laquan Treadwell. And, I think his NFL draft stock kind of dropped a little bit. But I see him as being a buy now as well, because people have basically jumped off the ship. Even if they spent the 102, there's possibly a way to get him for a second at this point. In your 2017 drafts, I'm more than fine with offering a 2017 second for him at this point.
Yeah, and when I said he was going for a late first, he was going for like the 111 or 112, and even people trading the 203 or something for him, and that seems like a nice investment to me. Recent news out of Minnesota said he was running as the third receiver. Adam Thielen's kind of playing that number 2 role right now. As much as I like Thielen, and I do like him, he seems destined to be that slot guy. And if Treadwell can even produce 80% of that potential that he had coming out of college, he should be able to play opposite Stephon Diggs. And that should be a nice combo. So I kind of like where he's at. One catch for 15 yards as a rookie doesn't put a lot of confidence in any of the owners out there that own him, but I don't feel too bad with him on my roster right now in Dynasty. Other receivers going after that, Corey Coleman, Josh Doxson, Sterling Shepard went 103 through 105 in rookie drafts a year ago. I feel like all these guys still have a lot of potential in the league. I certainly like having all these guys on my roster. Doxson's a little bit different than the others. If there's a guy I really am enamored with, it has to be Doxson for me, because we haven't seen anything from him except for what we saw in college, those one-handed grabs in the back of the end zone, toe tapping on the sidelines, the athleticism for a guy his size. I'm really intrigued by this guy. Coleman, we saw the ups and downs during his rookie season. Shepard, kind of the same thing, and now there's more targets or more receivers to get those targets in New York. I'm kind of scratching my head. I'm not sure if I'm in love with those guys and where they're going in current ADP compared to what they were a year ago. Doxson seems to be the guy that I'd be buying of that group. How about you, Chad?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same with you, because they signed Pryor, as we know, as a prove-it deal. They still have Crowder, who I think's going into his last year as well. And then they got Doxson, who's kind of a mystery and could be, the main red zone guy along with Jordan Reed when he's on the field. So I am intrigued by him. Corey Coleman, I don't get his ADP at this point. I'm worried to death about that hamstring being like John Brown's forever. So can you convince me like why Corey Coleman is like still the man?
Yeah, I wish I could, man, because I wasn't a big Corey Coleman guy coming out. And when that ADP continued to climb and got to the point where people were quickly considering him even a wide receiver too, I just couldn't grasp that whole that upside that some people saw. So I'm with you on that. It seems like there's a lot more potential and guys around him in ADP. I've seen guys like Terrell Pryor and Dante Moncrief, those kind of guys go in the same breath. Even Demaryius Thomas is just a couple picks ahead of him in ADP. It seems to me like I'd rather invest in those guys rather than the Coleman, who's the speedster, and we haven't quite seen that blazing upside that so many dynasty owners talk about.
Because his hamstring's been broken ever since he's been drafted.
Yeah, it seems that way. And, that seems kind of important for a guy that relies on speed. I'm no doctor, though.
Yeah.
The next guy, exactly. The next guy in ADP is Michael Thomas. You touched on him briefly. If there was a guy that could upend Ezekiel Elliott, not on the football field, but as that 101 looking back at the 2016 draft class, it'd have to be Thomas. I got to say, I'm a huge Big Ten football fan. And I watched Michael Thomas in college, and I just didn't see it. I didn't see that wide receiver one. The guy I saw a nice receiver and a guy that could potentially be a red zone guy and play a nice role for an NFL team as a wide receiver two on that football team. I did not see NFL wide receiver or fantasy wide receiver one upside, and I'm willing to say I was wrong about that. That rookie year was impressive. I can't believe you'd think anything else, would you, Chad?
No, and I was the same way. I like the player, but pre-draft, I didn't really understand all the hype that was surrounding him. And now I think at this point, it's just if you're a big athletic, somewhat athletic receiver, and you're going to get playing time in a Drew Brees, Sean Payton offense, I think we have to take note and maybe bump him up a little bit at this point.
Yeah,
it makes people better. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Exactly, and landing spot means so much.
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of come around on this in the last few years. Playing with Breeze is just a coup. It's perfect for him, and his game fits perfectly. And now with Cooks gone, you can say what you want about Snead. I like Snead as much as the next guy. Ted Ginn coming in. I mean, he's a nice complementary piece. But let's face it, right now we are looking at Michael Thomas as that number one receiver there, and there's not anybody close. Maybe Coby Fleener, Jeff Miller, picks up a few extra targets and stuff, but it seems to me that Thomas, they're going to build this passing game around Michael Thomas. I love the guy, and I'm just fine building a dynasty roster and that depth chart at wide receiver around Michael Thomas.
Do you think he's going to basically have that career arc like Marcus Colston did?
Well, I've seen those comparisons, and I don't really like them, to be honest with you, because Colston really came in with very little fanfare.
And he was a tight end.
He was a tight end, exactly. And, expectations were not to the point that Thomas has, maybe countrywide in the United States and as football fans in general, we don't really realize that the pressure was on down there in New Orleans. Those Saints fans expected him to come in and make a big splash, and that's exactly what he did. He really looked good as a rookie. All those catches and the big catches at that, it was impressive. 92 receptions, over 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns. You don't see that a lot out of rookies, and when you do, usually it's those elite guys coming into the league, drafted in the top 5 or top 10. Thomas, he broke my expectations coming in round 2, and I like I said, I'm just fine building a fantasy roster around Thomas. So
he's basically everything we wanted Brandon Coleman to be.
Oh, you said it, brother. Exactly. Derrick Henry was the 7th pick, and Henry came in with quite a bit of fanfare. A lot of people expected big things out of him. He landed in Tennessee, where there was some competition at the running back position. We saw good things, though. He averaged 4.5 yards a carry, had 5 touchdowns on just 110 carries. What do you see out of Henry going forward? Are you buying him? Are you right now we're talking about a top 12, top 15 running back in ADP. Are you willing to spend those kind of assets to add Henry to your rosters?
I'm not. I don't own any Derrick Henrys on any of my dynasty leagues, but because I actually sold the one share I had last year, I wouldn't sell him probably if I had him, depending on the makeup of my team. But I'm not buying him because people are still, in love with Derrick Henry and the thought what he could be in that offense if there was an injury to DeMarco Murray. So I'm not really ready to pay the price for what his owners will probably want, and so I'm okay with it though too at the same time.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'm not sure I'm that okay with it. I like Derrick Henry. I liked him coming in, but are we really convinced that he's going to take carries away from DeMarco Murray even in 2017? It feels to me like a lot of dynasty owners are banking on that and using the fallback of, well, at least in 2018, he'll get those carries. With what we see out of running backs nowadays, if you don't start putting up numbers early, and Murray's only 29, it's not crazy to think that he has another year or two of solid running back one production. I'm just not convinced that giving up a high running back one kind of return in a trade is a good dynasty investment. I liked what I saw out of Henry in college. I certainly liked what I saw in limited touches as a rookie. I'm just not convinced that we should be giving high to mid first round picks for this guy. And those are the types of deals you find if you look on the DLF trade tool. Yeah. So that seems like a high price to pay to me.
And it's funny because right now in the startup ADP, Derrick Henry is the RB14 and DeMarco Murray is right behind him at RB15. So if you had Derrick Henry and you were maybe a running back away, would you trade him instantly for DeMarco Murray right now?
Yeah, I think that's a no-brainer to me. If I'm a true contender, and you got to look at your roster honestly, I'm not just saying automatically go get the starter for the young guy. But if you truly are a contender and looking at winning a championship, I'd do that deal in a heartbeat. I'd be the guy throwing in a second round pick to make the deal, to be honest with you.
I think I would
and wouldn't blink at it. So
me too. Yeah.
The second half of the first round last season went Leonte Carew, Tyler Boyd, Will Fuller, CJ Prosise, and Kenneth Dixon. I heard the exasperation coming from you, Chad. There's a couple of names in there that, a year later, you're rolling your eyes. I know last year at this time, I was excited to have Tyler Boyd on my team.
Yeah.
Leonte Carew, he was a little bit overdrafted, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And he picked up a little steam as the offseason went on. So, he went a little higher in August than he did in June or July. Any of these names you're super excited about, or on the contrary, any of them that you're really bummed out about?
I'm really bummed out about Leonte Carew, to be honest.
Okay.
And granted, like, this is a guy that I would love to have gotten if I was like anywhere past the 110 in most of my drafts. But the writing's kind of on the wall at this point. They re-signed Kenny Stills. They still have Landry. Devontae Parker's, making all the noise in mini camps right now. They drafted Isaiah Ford. They even brought in one of my old long lost Devies, Demore Stringfellow, to compete for a job. So, as much as I don't want to get, he's the one guy probably in the first round right now that I've completely given up on.
Yeah, I'm kind of to the same point. And the guy for me is Tyler Boyd. I'm just so bummed out. I was so excited a year ago that he was starting to slip into the late part of the first round, because a year prior to that, a lot of us were thinking
he was a 101.
101, top 3 pick for sure. And we all saw that brightness at the end of the tunnel, and how once he got out of that college system, how he could flourish in the NFL, because he was just built for that type of offense. Yeah. And it just hasn't materialized. His last year at Pitt was kind of a head scratcher. After that, things kind of, we just didn't see what we were hoping in Cincinnati in that offense with that elite number 1 guy across from him in AJ Green. So
I was excited about Boyd. There's a lot of people still on the bandwagon saying he's built to play in the slot, that big slot role, kind of like Marcus Colston that you mentioned earlier. And I can see that. I'm not jumping off by any means, but I'm still a little bit bummed out. If you are a believer, you can get Tyler Boyd for awfully cheap.
Yeah,
he is very cheap right now after seeing Ross land there in Cincinnati. So he's a potential buy if you're still a believer. Any of those other names, especially those running backs, CJ Prosise, Kenneth Dixon, any of those guys get you excited going into 2017?
You know, I'm a little excited for Kenneth Dixon. I think he's suspended for the first 4 games or whatever, but we saw he did pretty well kind of near the end, running the ball in place or kind of splitting time with Terrence West. I have some excitement about him still, but if I can get value for him, like the value we were getting for him last year, I will sell in a second, which I have. But another guy, CJ Prosise, you mentioned, I'm excited about him. The Hawks have nothing but good things to say about him. He's added on some muscle. He's still fast as hell, and I'm excited to see him in this Russell Wilson offense with Eddie Lacy. Your Eddie Lacy pounding the rock.
my Eddie Lacy, but it's also my CJ Prosise. I've been a believer since early on. The injury history is what scares me off of Prosise quite a bit. I think he's that kind of tailback that you have to limit his touches, but can still be a nice fantasy player, a solid running back 3 type dynasty asset, even with between 7 and 10 touches a game, because he's so electrifying out of the backfield, both as a pass catcher and on the perimeter as a runner. So I still believe in Prosise. I'm with you on Dixon too. There's opportunity there, and where opportunity is in a backfield, there's the potential for fantasy gold. Let's move to round 2. We're going to do these in big chunks. Picks 1 through 4 in the second round last year were all running backs, according to August ADP. Devontae Booker, DeAndre Washington, Jordan Howard, and Wendell Smallwood. Howard, I think, would be the obvious 103 if we were drafting this today, and everybody would be super happy to get him at 103. Definitely. Outside of Howard, is there anything to be excited about here, Chad?
I don't know. Are we calling Devontae Booker a running back? Is that no,
or a jag, just a guy? 3.5 yards a carry doesn't get too many people excited about it.
If you tossed your dart and hit Jordan Howard, count yourself lucky. I mean, that's just amazing value at 203. I think he's going in like inside the top 10 in running backs now, isn't he? He's RB7 in startups right now. Only 22 years old. To be honest,
he certainly belongs there.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen this with running backs every year. It seems like you can get inside the top 10 or outside the top 50 in 1 year, you know, with how it goes in the NFL. But I mean, this guy was a lottery ticket, and kudos to anybody who got him for real cheap, because you really hit the lottery with him.
Yeah, it was a lottery ticket that paid off in spades for sure. The rest of the second round, Malcolm Mitchell, Paul Perkins, Tajay Sharp, Josh Ferguson, Hunter Henry, Braxton Miller, Kenyon Drake, and Jonathan Williams. The guy, obviously, out of this group, Hunter Henry, his value has increased dramatically since this time last year. The guy I'll focus on before I throw it to you, Chad, is Kenyon Drake. I was a believer a year ago. I still feel like if he were to get that opportunity as that pass-catching, full-time third down back, get those 5 catches a game, which I really feel like he has a little bit of Danny Woodhead in his game. And if he gets on the edge, he could be that playmaker that could bring us fantasy value in limited touches a game. So I still believe in a lot of leagues, you can find him on the waiver wire already. He's worthy of a roster spot just for that upside. Is there anybody out of that group for you, Chad?
Yeah, I think we have to talk about Jonathan Williams, because again, this is another guy I think he's probably suspended for 3 games, 4 games, maybe 2 games to start the year. He's behind an aging LaShawn McCoy. They didn't address the running back at all in the draft. Behind Jonathan Williams, you see Joe Banyard, Cedric O'Neal, and Jordan Johnson. So, I mean, what they'll do in the offseason, continuing, into training camps, they could sign a guy and add a guy here or there, but I think they believe in Jonathan Williams, and I really loved Jonathan Williams' college tape before he got injured. But I think that's a guy that if you got him at 212, then you're pretty happy at this point because he could still be the guy, going into 2018.
Yeah, and he was the second guy that I circled of this group that we're talking about. I think his DUI case got thrown out too, so there's a chance that suspension could go away. And a lot of fantasy owners, especially if you don't know it, Chad, a lot of fantasy owners don't know that, and you might be able to capitalize as getting him as a throw-in on a deal or something like that. I agree with you, especially because of what you mentioned about McCoy being aging now at this point in his career. I think there's the opportunity for him to get maybe even double-digit touches a game. And as we've seen in that Buffalo offense, that has the potential to pay off in fantasy. The third round, we'll shoot through these really quick, Chad. Austin Hooper, Pharoh Cooper. We start seeing the quarterbacks with Jared Goff, Tyler Ervin, Mike Thomas, Alex Collins, Rashard Higgins, Carson Wentz, Paxton Lynch, Tyler Higbee, Daniel Lasco made it into the third round, Daniel Braverman, and then Dak Prescott was the 403 last year. Yeah. Outside of Prescott, maybe the other quarterbacks, anybody that excites you, and even if it is a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler Ervin. No, actually, no, none of these guys actually.
Yeah, it was hard to get excited about any of these guys. I'm a Wentz supporter.
What a dumpster fire of a round right there.
Yeah, and I guess that goes to show, and as we go through this whole exercise, as we go through a couple seasons here, we're going to realize how invaluable these third round picks are. If you scooped up Dak Prescott, though, in the fourth round, even in a one quarterback league, though, you're feeling really good about that at this point. Let's move on to the 2015 class. Talk about some players that actually matter in our game. We'll start in the first round. The whole Amari Cooper, Todd Gurley, Melvin Gordon, 1 through 3. I think it was for most.
Kevin White was in there.
Yeah, and then Kevin White was in the conversation for quite a while, I think, as the 101. Lots of people landed on Cooper. I know I was a Cooper guy, but Gurley was right on his heels. They were 1A and 1B to me. Who did you like back then? Who do you like now, Chad?
It was kind of easy for me. If I had the 101 or the 102, it was kind of easy for me. It really was based on need for me because I kind of valued them about the same going into the draft. If I needed a running back, I was fine with taking Gurley. If I needed a wide receiver, I was happy taking Cooper. So, I mean, what I think we see now is, 101, Mari Cooper is the right pick at this point. And, I think this is his year to really capitalize on, to make his owners believe that they did the right thing by getting the 101.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I was a Cooper guy, and I was trying to take Cooper even if I needed the running back because I was a big believer and still am. I think he could make that jump and make those guys that took him that high really feel good about the pick as well. Although, there's a lot of people down on Gurley after that second year, and for good reason. He didn't show – he didn't look all that good, to be honest. No. I think there's the potential for him to break out and have that big third season in LA as well.
I do too. It just didn't and I've said this before, it looked like he did not enjoy playing football last year. And who did under Jeff Fisher? Who does?
Yeah, who would, right? I mean, and he expressed his disinterest in that offense through the media a couple of times. There's reason to believe that that was the singular reason that he just wasn't interested in playing that offense. New life gets breathed into him. Breath. It could be. He gets new life and kind of becomes the guy that we expected and the guy that we honestly saw as a rookie. What about Melvin Gordon? He was the third pick in that draft. 3.5 yards a carry. Didn't find the end zone as a rookie. A lot of people don't realize he didn't even hit 1,000 yards. Didn't reach 4 yards a carry either last year, but scored 10 touchdowns. Yeah. A lot of fantasy owners are, and I'm a Gordon apologist, really. I'm a big Wisconsin Badgers fan.
Yeah, I was going to say, where did he go to college?
And I see the writing on the wall, though. A lot of if I have the opportunity to sell him at what he's worth and what people are getting for him, I'm willing to sell because it's not like the numbers jumped and he looked like the second coming of Emmitt Smith or anything like that. He still doesn't look like that true franchise tailback to me at the NFL level. What do you think? Are you holding him where he's at right now? Are you buying him, or are you willing to sell if the deal is right?
Yeah, I mean, with any running back, mostly I'm ready to sell him at a moment's notice. And I do like that Woodhead isn't there. And I know, Woodhead got hurt last year, but and I think that opened up the Chargers offense a little more into giving Gordon some more, pass routes and receptions. So I think that actually helped Gordon along. But right now, see him going as the RB4 in startups. If you can get that sort of value for him, I mean, I'm all for trading him for more needs on your current team.
Me too. Guys around him in ADP include AJ Green, DeAndre Hopkins, Allen Robinson, T.Y. Hilton. Stop me when I get to a player that I'm not trading Melvin Gordon for. I love Gordon, as I said, but if somebody offers me AJ Green or DeAndre Hopkins, Allen Robinson, I'm pulling the trigger in a heartbeat. It doesn't take me long to accept that deal. After that, in last year's draft, let's talk a little bit about Kevin White here. Mm-hmm. Come on, we haven't seen anything yet. Are you gonna be an apologist here? Are you a believer? Were you back then, Chad? I don't even remember.
No.
And now where do you fall on the bandwagon?
I mean, I liked him. I thought he was the number 2 wide receiver in the draft, but I wasn't putting him up in the 102, 103 range. There was, I believe, some guys tried to get me to rank him over Amari Cooper back then, but I'm glad I stuck to my guns because I mean he did look great in spandex, but good dude can't stay healthy. Even when he was getting peppered with targets last year, he had decent box scores, but overall, I mean, he left a lot of points on the field as well. So, I mean, I'm not really too high onto Kevin White. And, I think a lot of people seem to have kind of cooled on him as well, at least. I think Brashad Perriman has surpassed him at this point.
Sure. And when the thing that pulls me back to him just a little bit, and I've never been a big Kevin White guy, is that there's really nothing else there outside of Jordan Howard in Chicago. We're talking about Cameron Meredith and Marcus Wheaton, who I think I've seen enough of him. Kendall Wright, don't we know the story there? Zach Miller at tight end. There really isn't a whole lot there, and somebody has to catch some passes. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if White has a productive season. I certainly wouldn't be expecting what we were a couple of years ago when he was going in the top 4 in rookie drafts, however. Mm-hmm. After White in the 2015 draft, we saw Devontae Parker, TJ Yeldon, and Nelson Aguilar. A lot of us are still excited about Devontae Parker. What do you think, Chad?
Yeah, I mean, I see it. I liked him coming out.
Me too.
I wasn't sure if he was worth a 105 or even a 107 at that point, but if it's going to be, if he's going to be a thing, it's got to be this year, I think. And by all accounts, he's doing what he needs to, saying all the right things, doing all the right things, and looking the part in practice. So the only problem for me is it seems like there's so many mouths to feed now in Miami that I don't see him having this wide receiver 2 type season. I think he can be a good kind of bye week starter if you need it, but I just don't see where he's going to get the production people are thinking he's going to get right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I was a big Parker guy. I had him ahead of Kevin White in my rankings coming out in 2015. And as much as I'd like to say that makes me look good, it certainly doesn't, because Parker's been a disappointment from any perspective outside of 1 or 2 big games.
I mean,
he's shown a little bit. Yeah.
Last year, I mean, he looked good on a lot of occasions. On the occasions he actually got thrown to. It just, I don't know.
Yeah, he had a couple of head scratchers though as well. Yeah. I know he dropped one down the sideline that really cost me in one game, and I think that's gonna.
You always remember those.
You always remember that for sure. And Parker is a really interesting player because he has that size and speed and all the things you look for. But what you talked about on that depth chart is a gigantic factor here. It's hard to see him paying off like his ADP, which is 52 right now. That's a big number. That's a high. Oh, yeah. That's a pretty high pick for my taste. I've been trying to trade him away this offseason, trying to kind of cash in on what was left, and I haven't seen the offers that made me feel like he was the 52nd pick in ADP and 28th wide receiver. People are paying high-end wide receiver 2 prices for this guy. And I know we've seen it on a game by game every now and then, but he hasn't been the same guy we saw at Louisville. yet. I hope he pays off in the long run because I was a big fan, and anywhere I could get him at 105 or sometimes even 106 or 107 in rookie drafts back then, I was scooping him up. So I have a few shares. I wouldn't mind him having at least a few big games so I could cash in on that ADP.
You know,
after Yeldon.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah, fire away.
Who'd you rather own, Dante Moncrief or Devontae Parker?
Oh, I would rather have Moncrief.
Okay,
just I feel like, you know, both of them we've seen it from, but I mean, at this point, who do you trust? Do you trust Luck or Tannehill?
Yeah.
And it's hard to get on the Tannehill bandwagon, to be honest with you. Plus, outside of T.Y. Hilton, I'm not super scared of anybody hogging a whole lot of targets in Indianapolis. Whereas, like you mentioned, in Miami, even guys like Kenny Stills make you pause for a second, like, oh, yeah, Kenny Stills. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Julius Thomas. What if he kind of comes back to life in that offense? You know, they're kind of a run-first offense as well.
That was my big thing.
There's a lot of things in Miami that make me a little bit hesitant when it comes to Parker, for sure.
Yeah.
Amir Abdullah, Rashad Perriman, Dorial Green-Beckham, Tevin Coleman, and Duke Johnson rounded out the first round in 2015. Of this group, I would say Coleman has kind of emerged. Outside of Coleman, who I'm happy rostering in leagues and paying the price that he's currently worth, I think there is upside there. Depending on what happens with Devonta Freeman, if Coleman moves on, I think Coleman is going to have a role in the long term, if not in Atlanta, somewhere else. Outside of him, the guy that still grabs my attention is Amir Abdullah. I still kind of feel it with him a little bit. I feel like if he really got the opportunity and could stay healthy, which is kind of that's a couple of big ifs, I think he could flourish somewhere. Is there anybody for you, Chad, that you're either hanging on to or willing to buy in your dynasty leagues?
Yeah, just the 108, 109, Abdullah and Perriman. I'm holding and trying to buy it at decent price if I can to both of those. Dorial Green-Beckham is dead. Tevin Coleman is too expensive. And Duke Johnson, you know, I mean, for what he is, you know, and I kind of ragged on him, I guess, when I was with Jeff Miller on a couple weeks ago on this podcast. I didn't mean to rag on him like he was basically shit. He is what he is. I mean, he's a decent PPR back with limited upside, I think, in the Cleveland offense. But I mean, for what he is, I like Duke. And I was a big Duke Johnson fan coming out. So, you know, it is what it is. But Abdullah and Perriman are the guys. Coleman's too expensive for me at this point. If I didn't hit on him when the getting was good, then I'm not going to own him.
Yeah, that's interesting. Coleman currently comes in at 57 in ADP, so real close to Devontae Parker. Who do you want right now, Tevin Coleman or Devontae Parker in a vacuum?
Oh, probably. I always go with the receiver, so Parker. Gotta be Parker.
Yeah, I usually do too, but I'm a believer. I think Coleman actually has it. If it weren't for Devonta Freeman, I think Coleman would be where Devonta Freeman is.
I'm really scared that Atlanta will re-sign Freeman at a decent team deal. I think he'll still get paid, but I think he's probably going to be back there. That's just my
yeah. And if your gut says that, I can understand backing away. But I just see it. It feels right. I really feel like Coleman would be doing what Freeman is doing if he had the same opportunity. So I like you. I was a Duke Johnson guy. It seems like he's settled into the role of not being more than that third down guy, pass catcher. He gets a draw. It's sad to say, but he reminds me a lot of James White. They seem like the same type of guy, and I can get James White a lot cheaper than I can Duke Johnson. So I've kind of moved on from him.
Same another guy, round, like 3 less rings.
Yeah,
2 less rings, whatever it is.
Yeah, same guy. One plays in Cleveland and one plays for Belichick's new team. There was another big bargain in round 2 in the 2015 class. We talked a little bit about it with Jordan Howard at 203 last year, but David Johnson went at 204 this past year. Another just massive steal. I don't think we have to waste a whole lot of time on that.
He's good.
He's good. He's damn good. I'm not willing to pay what he's worth. I will not pick him at 103 in a startup. I will not pay the $80 in a $400 budget that's necessary. But if I have him and I got him at 204, unless I can bend somebody over a barrel to get him away from me, I'm not giving him up. You should get the world for David Johnson. He should be getting the same kind of deals that Ezekiel Elliott gets, when you're looking at dynasty trades. Other guys around there, 101 or 201, excuse me, Philip Dorsett. Yeah, people took Dorsett over David Johnson. Devin Funchess, Jay Ajayi, Jalen Strong, and then we start getting into the quarterbacks. Of those other guys, Dorsett, Funchess, Ajayi, Strong. I was a big Strong supporter. I really liked him. I felt like he belonged in that same. He was the same kind of player that we were talking about in the mid to late first round at wide receiver, the Nelson Aguilars and the Perrimans and Green Beckhams. So I thought he was a bargain. He has not paid off at all. He's on waiver wires everywhere. I actually picked him up in a couple of leagues just because I still have those fond memories from back in college. Anybody out of that group? Maybe it's Strong, maybe somebody else that grabs your attention still, Chad?
Devin Funchess.
Oh, really?
No, I mean I'm no longer part of the Devin Funchess fan club. No, I mean
okay.
I actually I loved Funchess. He was like on all my Devy teams. I was drafting him, top 10 rookies. I was an idiot, but I am an idiot, and that was. But I can see. No,
you've learned from your mistakes. Right?
I think. I hope. Who knows? But I mean, as much as talent as the guy has, he just. And again, the writing's on the wall. They're bringing Samuel. They have McCaffrey. Benjamin's still there. Greg Olsen. There's just no targets for Funchess, and even if he got targets, I mean, is he really going to do anything with them? I don't think so. But Jay Ajayi, he's a guy that I really like. But he's another guy that I'm selling if I can get value at this point.
Me too. Yeah, I've never been a Ajayi guy, and if I owned him anywhere, I'd be selling right now. It'd be the optimum time for me. I don't think I have to explain it again. I've talked about it on the pod a few times before.
If you're in a Scott Fish league and you have...
You're not going to have him. You don't own him.
Yeah, exactly. You already don't have him, so it doesn't matter.
After those guys, we started to see those two young quarterbacks that everybody's still talking about, Winston and Mariota. Who did you like more back then, Chad? Who do you like more now?
I liked Winston better then, and actually I like Mariota better now.
Okay. I liked Winston better then, and I still hold on to my Winston feelings.
Yeah,
Tell me on Mariota, brother. What's the deal? Why did you flip the script?
It's splitting hairs. I just think he's I really like both of what their teams are doing and building around them. I like the run game that Marcus Mariota has, and I think he'll be kind of like Tannehill with his rushing. I think at some point, I think it's weird. Like I feel like he could rush like a Russell Wilson would do, but he just doesn't, and he throws the ball. But I think he could add some value if he did that. But I think he's a smart kid. He limits his mistakes, and he's good in the red zone. So I mean, I like that, and it's splitting hairs. I mean, I think they're both going to be really good NFL QB1s for your dynasty teams, but I prefer Marcus Mariota just as of right now. I mean, that could change next week, I'm sure.
Sure. I don't know what could change that unless Mariota goes and steals.
If he gets hurt again, breaks his foot, then I'll probably.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. What about their price right now? Are you paying what they're worth? Especially in like a super flex or 2 quarterback league. We're talking about the quarterback 3 and the quarterback 5. These are young guys that we haven't seen it from. We're not talking about guys who put up top 3 fantasy numbers at the position. We're talking about potential. Are you willing to pay that?
No, I mean,
I'm not either. And I'm willing to sell if somebody's willing to pay that to me, and I can still field my roster. I've seen deals in 2 quarterback or super flex where people are dealing Aaron Rodgers for these guys.
Yeah.
Like that's a little insane to me.
It's insulting, really.
It really is. Cash in, give me Rodgers. I'll take A-Rod for that.
And I was actually really curious with Kitchen Cinco this year. I was really curious to see where both of them would go. And I mean, the prices were just astronomical for both of them in the leagues I saw. And I'm not ready to pay those sort of prices even in Superflex. So yeah, I mean, I'm selling even if I can get a really great player in return, then I'm selling every time.
Yeah, me too, for sure. The next 12 picks, late second, early third, in 2015, it was ugly, ladies and gentlemen. David Cobb, Max Williams, Javoris Allen, Matt Jones, he's a score. Chris Conley, Tyler Lockett, Devin Smith, Cameron Artis-Payne, Sammy Coates, Justin Hardy, Mike Davis. Do you want any of these guys on your – oh, Josh Robinson's the 12th one of that group. Do you want any of these guys even a little bit?
I do kind of want some Chris Conley and Tyler Lockett. I
guess people still like Lockett, and I understand it.
And plus, I'm a Seattle homer, so of course I want him.
Of course.
Yeah. Chris Conley really actually interests me. Maybe not so much for this year, but I am excited to see him with the possibility of Mahomes in 2018, maybe sometime late in 2017 if the Chiefs are out of it. But I think he's better suited for Mahomes' arm, and so I'd really like to see that athletic player play with a quarterback like Mahomes instead of an Alex Smith, just to see what he can do. And so, I mean, he's cheap. Again, this is a guy that you can get for basically nothing. So it's like, for me, it's worth a shot.
Yeah, I just circled his name. You made a couple good points there. I like what you had to say there. He's at least worthy of a roster spot, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
The next group of guys, there's one massive deal in this. Kenny Bell, DeAndre Smelter, Stephon Diggs, Trey McBride, and Clive Walter. Man, Diggs was a steal. I got him all over, with the exception of a couple leagues. I owned him in almost every league, and I've traded him in a couple because I kind of wanted to hedge in case it was a one-year wonder type thing, in case I was wrong. Yeah. And he's it, man. He's got it. He's the best receiver in Minnesota. And I truly wish he played with an elite quarterback, because I think he could be an elite type wide receiver.
Well, Teddy is getting healthy, so there's that chance. Elite Teddy Bridgewater. But I mean, that's stealing. See, guys I was taking was like Kenny Bells and DeAndre Smelters back then.
Score, man. You really cashed in there. One other guy that was in the 2015 class that has paid off big time is my buddy, Ty Montgomery. Yeah. A lot of people had to wait on Ty to get any value out of him. A lot of people dropped Ty, and somebody else scooped him up and scored because of Ty Montgomery. His value has skyrocketed since then. It's gone down and then back up. I can get on board with those that are saying sell Ty Montgomery. In fact, I would sell him in the leagues where I own him if I got proper value, or somebody even or not. It wouldn't even have to overpay necessarily. Just give me what he's currently going for. I've seen some deals on the trade tool that make me raise an eyebrow. Like, wow, Montgomery's really worth that. He's a wide receiver, right, Chad?
Maybe he was last year, but I'm glad my fantasy league changed him to running back.
Yeah, I am too. I say that tongue in cheek. You're not supposed to get these kind of prices for a wide receiver that's playing running back, was kind of my point.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're ready to sell, by all means, go ahead and sell. But Montgomery looks to be in a good role. He's a pass catcher playing with Aaron Rodgers. I certainly like him, and he wouldn't be the 404 if we redid the 2015 draft today. We're going to take a quick break here, Chad. We'll be right back. We're going to look at the 2014 rookie draft class in the Dynasty Rookie Draft Flashback episode right after this. Welcome back to the 260th edition of the DLF Dynasty podcast. I am Dan Myler. I have my buddy Chad Scott with me. We're going to talk. We've been talking about rookie drafts, past rookie draft. Ignore 2017. Let's talk about earlier drafts. We've gone through 2016. We shot through 2015. Let's do 2014 quick before we wrap things up, Chad. That was the Sammy Watkins, Mike Evans, Brandon Cooks draft. Those three were typically 1 through 3 in rookie drafts, although we did see some other names pop into there. We're going to cover them here in a minute. Watkins, Evans, Cooks, all very valuable players still. Most people would say they value Evans 1. People would go back and forth probably on Watkins or Cooks, who belongs at 2 and 3. I like all these guys, Chad. Talk me into being a big fan of one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I can. I think you can make a case for any of these really, because we haven't we've seen a little bit of what Sammy can do, but we just haven't seen a full season from it, right? We're all interested to see what Cooks can do in the Patriots. That's the one if he was still a Saint, I'd say, yeah, he's still in that conversation, but I'm a little skeptical of what he can actually do in New England, because again, it's just a smaller piece of the pie in New England. We know they spread around, yada, yada. We've all heard it. So, I mean, he'd definitely be my 103 now, but I mean, for me, Mike Evans, he's shown to be that wide receiver one that can be the red zone red zone target hog. Can do it even in between the 20s. He's Winston's go-to guy at all times. I mean, clearly for me, he's my 101. But I still have hope for what Sammy Watkins can be, just because he was so fun to watch in college.
Yeah, he was, and he's fun to watch in Buffalo too when he's on and when he's really playing. He's had a couple double-digit catch games, or at least approaching those numbers, where you see, oh yeah, that's the Sammy Watkins. Yeah. That's the guy we were drafted number 1 overall in rookie drafts. Watkins and Cooks are back-to-back among wide receivers in ADP at 12 and 13, and I'd say that's pretty much where they belong for the most part. After that threesome of wide receivers, we had Bishop Sankey, Jordan Matthews, and Carlos Hyde. Everybody can get pretty excited about Bishop Sankey, I'm sure. Matthews has had some ups and downs, but overall pretty consistent as far as output. If you look at a season, game to game, he's certainly up and down. Carlos Hyde, we're still waiting for that big bang, that big boom season. Haven't quite seen it yet. Chad, are you fired up about any of these guys? It can't be Sankey, right? That's your guy.
Yeah, he was my guy too. That's
don't admit that on air, buddy.
Again, I'm a Homer University of Washington guy. I couldn't help it. It was bound to happen. I was going to get burned on him no matter what. And now he's in Minnesota, I think, if I recall right. I saw him in Minnesota as part of their team, and I was going to go look for it just to make sure that he's actually still playing in the NFL, but probably a practice squad fellow. We'll move on from Bishop Sankey. Jordan Matthews, I think, for what Jordan Matthews is, I think a lot of people pumped Jordan Matthews up to be this wide receiver one going into the NFL, and he could be a true wide receiver one in the NFL and for your dynasty squads. I don't think he was ever that coming into the NFL, and I don't think he ever will be. I think he's a solid wide receiver 3 with maybe some low-end wide receiver 2 upside. I don't know if he's going to have it in Philly. I don't think he's a good fit there anymore. But I think, if he can get away from Philly and into an offense that more suits him, I would love to see him in San Francisco maybe next year, but we'll see. I still have hope that Matthews can be a productive wide receiver 3/2.
Yeah, I do too, and I think he belongs. Honestly, he belongs there, right? That's what we've seen from him. I just wish he could be a little bit more consistent. And
everybody hates him for some reason.
Everybody hates him, and
they don't want it.
If you see him as what he really is, he's not that bad. He fits in on my rosters as my 4th wide receiver that I can, when I need him, I plug him in, and he can play flex for me, and I'll be happy with it. A lot of dynasty owners aren't, however. Devontae Adams, a lot of dynasty owners weren't very happy with him early in his career, but he's come around. Kelvin Benjamin, a lot of the same with him, but in reverse, he was hot early, and then injuries and a lack of production has kind of followed that. Out of those two, who's the guy you want more, Adams or Benjamin?
Oh, definitely Adams. He was higher on my board even going into that draft of 2014, and I think he finally figured it out last year. I think him and Rodgers obviously got on the same page. I hope he can. I'm really praying that it's not just this 1-year thing with him, because I think he can. He could easily have the same sort of season. It's repeatable for him, I think, in that offense.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. And even more than that, I think it's going to happen in the long term, because Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb hog up a lot of that salary cap. We all know that Jordy.
I'm surprised they signed Cobb again.
Yeah,
I was surprised at that one.
It's a little bit of a head scratcher for sure. Jordy Nelson's cap number is $9.25 million in 2018, and that's a big number for a 33-year-old wide receiver. I don't think Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson are both going to be in Green Bay in 2018. That blows the door wide open for Adams, and a lot of people will say, yeah, well, when Nelson wasn't there 2 years ago, Adams didn't do much. Well, Adams was hurt too, and that offense was dysfunctional. I think we saw more of the real Davante Adams in 2016 than we did in 15. I'm a believer. I think Adams can kind of fill that role, at least to the point that he can, be a playmaker in the red zone and make the. I don't think he's ever going to catch 98 passes like we see out of Jordy Nelson, but he could be that 75, 80 catch, double-digit touchdown kind of guy as long as he's attached to Aaron Rodgers. If he ends up somewhere else, sell him immediately.
Yeah, I mean that's what he was at Fresno State. So I mean, I think his role is perfect in Green Bay now. I mean, that's what he does. That's what he always did well in college, and I think,
and that's who he is now. We shouldn't expect more, right, man?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, Jeremy Hill, Terrence West, Marquise Lee in August of 2014 was going over Odell Beckham Jr. 112. There are people out there that made that pick and now are denying that they did it, and league mates are digging through MFL looking for the proof that Lee was going over Odell Beckham Jr. Hill, West, Lee, they're all kind of in the same boat. They're fluttering. They've had moments. Hill especially.
Yeah.
I can't wrap my head around any of this stuff.
Mean,
give me that 112. I'll take OBJ.
Yeah, right. Like
that's the other three. I'll take OBJ.
I'll take whatever you guys don't. Oh, it's Odell Beckham Jr.
Oh, everybody has stories about passing on Odell Beckham Jr. I'm sure mine are horrible. I'm sure yours are as well. Let's move on to round two. Eric Ebron, Allen Robinson, Devonta Freeman were the top three picks in 2014 in round two. That's a pretty nice 201 through 203 when Ebron's the third best out of the group. Allen Robinson has just paid off huge. I was a big Robinson guy. He was one of the guys I liked over Beckham, which hasn't been all that bad. But he was my 103 back in 2014. Oh, wow. And, Allen Robinson has been everything I hoped he would be. He had kind of a down 2016. Who is the real Allen Robinson, Chad? Do you believe that 2015 version, the 2016 version, or is it somewhere in between?
I think it's somewhere in between. I mean, his 2015 was just insane, and him and Bortles were just kind of on this different level. And he had a bunch of these great catches that he ended up getting in 2016. They ended up being drops last year, especially near the end zone or in the end zone. So I think he's kind of a mixture. I think he has that wide receiver one upside, top 10 wide receiver, I want to say. But maybe if people are thinking he's the 2015 wide receiver, top 5 guy, they're going to be a little disappointed in his production, for the next few years or whatever.
Yeah. So he's at number 9 among wide receivers.
Yeah.
Is that where he belongs?
I think so. I mean, I think anywhere from 8 to 12, you can make a case for him. So, I mean, I'm fine with him at 9.
Yeah, I think he's an early second round startup pick, maybe even the 11th or 12th pick in the first. I like to build around wide receivers, so he certainly fits into that conversation for me. Devonta Freeman, man, I'm selling. We've talked about other backs in the same light. I'm selling him if I can get what he's going for right now. It's just too high for me. And you said earlier that you feel like Freeman will be back. He is the 15th pick in ADP. Give me whatever else I can get for Devonta Freeman if I can sell him. If I can't, though, and I own him in one place, if I can't get top 15, top 18 value, I'm holding him and just going to cash that ticket and let him run for all those yards as an Atlanta Falcon again in 2017 on my fantasy team.
It's funny when you sent me this list, I completely forgot he was in the 2014 class because I feel like he's been in the NFL for like 10 years now for some reason. I don't know why. It's probably Twitter because of how much they either hated or loved him. But yeah, it's pretty amazing.
When he came in, there were a lot of people that said third down back. He's that change of pace guy. Maybe he can fit in because he's kind of a bowling ball. Yeah. He's only 5'8", but he's 206 and he runs behind his pads a little bit. But people thought he was that mix. I heard people on Twitter, saw people on Twitter saying, "Oh, he's a goal line type guy, short yardage," and then others would say, "No, he's that third down type guy." And man, it seems like he's at every down back then, right? We should be getting on the bandwagon here. I never really did. I only drafted him in one place. He slipped to late second in one draft, and I got him there, and I've had him since. But like I said, if I could get top 15 ADP for him, I'd be selling him. in a heartbeat. Cody Latimer was the 204. Let's waste some time talking about him, or Trey Mason, who is 205. How about Dante Moncrief? He was the 206. I know he's one of your guys, Chad. You'd move him up on this list if we were drafting today. Sell me on Dante Moncrief.
You know, I do like Dante Moncrief. I've soured a little bit just because I don't know, for some reason.
Been burned by him.
Yeah, I mean, I have been burnt by him countless times, but maybe it's because I'm 37 and I'm getting wiser, or I don't know what it is, but I have no patience. Yeah, I have no patience for just hype anymore. Yeah, I am jaded. I'm completely jaded. And so, like, if they're hyped and you want to give me the more value than he's actually worth to me, then I'm selling. But you know, I just don't know if his touchdown rate is sustainable, and that's really all he's been at this point. Other than that, he's either not seen the field or he just doesn't do much in the games. He has to get a touchdown to get you those fantasy points, and I don't know, man.
There was a stretch last year for 4 or 5 weeks where he was 1, 2, or 3 catches, but he'd have a touchdown, and everybody, okay, Moncrief paid off. He got
10 points. All right.
Yeah, I feel good about it. I don't know if that can pay off in the long term either. And he's 42 among ADP. So let's shoot through the rest of this draft. The end of the second round: Andre Williams, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, Kadeem Carey, Teddy Bridgewater, James White, Johnny Manziel. Lots of stars there. Anybody worth talking about, Chad?
I think maybe a little bit Austin Seferian-Jenkins. I mean,
really,
if he's on the waiver wire, if he's on waivers, if he's free. Yeah, if he's basically free, which he is. I mean, he's basically
not almost
free.
He has to be actually free.
Yeah. I mean, really, because let's not forget. I mean, this dude was a freak coming out, and he got into bad situations, and he hung out with the wrong people, obviously. But you know, there's that story. He's 120 plus days sober now. He seems to be in the best shape of his life. He's turned his life together. You know, if this is the guy that was at UW, the athletic freak that we saw, I mean, he's going to be on an NFL team and he's going to produce. When that is, hopefully it's this year. But, I mean, he's free. He's worth an end of the roster spot for me.
Yeah, the third round, this is the third round that produced something fantasy-wise for us. Charles Sims, Jason Morrow, Paul Richardson, Isaiah Crowell, Jarvis Landry was a third-round pick in ADP in August. I seem to remember him going a little higher than that.
I swear he did. When I saw it, I was like, what?
That doesn't belong, right? Jarrett McKinnon, Martavis Bryant has paid off in some respects. John Brown has done a little bit for fantasy owners. Blake Bortles, the evergreen Storm Johnson, who just won't go away, CJ Fedorowicz, and Jeff Janis. Also, Derek Carr and Bruce Ellington were fourth-round picks. There's a lot of talent right there. Jesus. Carr, certainly, man, what a steal. Even in one quarterback leaves at 402, that's a value. We also see Crowell, who just keeps pumping out RB2 seasons since he was a rookie. He's paid off in spades. Jarvis Landry, I don't think anybody that picked him that late is going to be complaining. I mentioned Martavis Bryant, John Brown. Wow, that third round makes you think you should hold on to those third-round lottery tickets, right?
I know, like, you know, you see the past two and it's just a complete shit show, but God, that third round was just that third round should have been the second round.
Yeah, it really seems that way. We talked about Trey Mason and Kadeem Carey and Andre Williams and all those winners in round 2. It seems like some of those others should have been bumped up there. All right, so we shot through 3 seasons worth of rookie drafts. Is there anything we learned from this other than maybe third round picks are sometimes good and sometimes bad?
Yeah, and you know, I think if you're in a rebuild, you need all the darts you can get in rookies, because I mean, we can't tell the future of any of these. I mean, look at these ADPs and look at them now. Get as many darts as you can and take your throws, because you're not going to hit on every rookie. So if you're going to go into full rebuild, get as many darts as you can and just throw them all at once onto the board.
Yeah, it's good advice for sure. Who's the bust that you still believe in out of these 3 drafts? Who's the guy that hasn't done anything for you yet, but you're still holding on to your shares?
I want to say Cody Latimer, but it's not. I used to love Cody Latimer.
I know. That's why I glazed over him. I didn't want a 10-minute
that's terrible.
Chad Scott ordeal. There'd be tears and laughing and crying. I wouldn't be able to handle it, Chad.
Lots of tears. I know. I think we could probably safely say for the most part the 2014 class is what it is. I don't know if we're holding. I mean, I did talk about Austin Severian Jenkins, but other than that, I mean, I don't really see anybody else surpassing what the others have done. I would, if I was going to go on a limb, excuse me, I'd probably have to go with. Oh God, I don't even know.
This is great radio here. This is a great podcast.
I know. Let's see. Maybe I'm gonna say Malcolm Mitchell. I still think he's a buy. I said it a few shows ago. I know he's kind of stuck behind the depth chart, but for him to come in and play as well as he did in that offense that apparently no rookie wide receivers can do these days at New England, I think he has some value. I don't, Edelman is not going to be there forever, even though he's just resigned. They are getting older. He's still young. I think he's the guy.
Yeah, the guy for me is Treadwell, and I kind of waxed poetic about him earlier. So we'll kind of glaze over that. Who's the overachiever? The guy who has done more than he probably should have, that you are willing to sell and get what you can for. The guy, man, there's actually a whole bunch of them among this list that we've covered here. Who's the guy for you?
If you can, we talked about it, and it pains me to say because I do like him, but it's probably Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, you stole the words right out of my mouth. Yeah. He and everybody knows how much I love Gordon, but if I can sell him and get what he's worth, I'm absolutely gonna do it as well. I want to thank you, Chad, for joining me on this episode of the podcast. You should follow the pod. It's at DLF Podcast. You should follow my buddy Chad and make sure to ask him how women's underwear slowed the episode down this evening. He's at Chad_Scott13, and I'm at DMyler22. You can follow me if you want to see 1 or 2 tweets a month in your feed. So thanks again for listening to the 260th episode of the DLF Dynasty Podcast. And remember, there is no off season. Okay, we went long. Good luck with that, Aaron.
A little bit.
Sorry. No, I didn't see your message, and then I'm like, 45-minute mark. And then I clicked on it, and it said it was at 1 hour and 1 minute. I was like, oh, shoot, let's wrap this up.
Yeah, but it was – I honestly didn't think we'd even get to 45 with what it was, but it was interesting to just kind of go back and hash out some of those picks, man.
Yeah, I thought so too. I was on my way back from Kansas City and thought to myself, what are we going to talk about? I do not want it to be the rookies. I don't want it to be what everybody else is doing.
Right.
And that kind of popped into my head, and I'm like, that's it. That's what we're doing.
No, I think that was a great idea for a topic, to be honest with you, because I wouldn't have had any freaking clue. That was 260, right?
Yeah.
It's like normal. I have no idea. I'm like, so I was telling Matt this the other day. So I'm so scatterbrained. I don't want any oh, I'm sorry. But so I just have my grandma just passed. So packing up her house. I'm packing up my house because we just sold our house. We have to be out of here with by the 23rd or 24th of this month. I just changed jobs. I'm like, it's just been this shitstorm for me in my life. Yeah. And so it's I seem a little flaky at times. It's because that's why. So it's not because I'm a flake, I promise. Just a lot of shit going on in my life. That's all. All right. I'm just downloading this.
I should write something witty about this. What should I call it? How about rookie draft flashback?
That'll work. Let's
I wish you would have said something funny.
Who? Just now?
You. No, anytime throughout the podcast, so I could put it in this.
No.
You didn't say anything funny, did you?
I don't think I did. I didn't drink today, so I didn't have my funny juice. I had no funny juice. I know,
no, I'm kidding. I got a pretty good one I wrote down during it.
Oh, really? All right. Let's see. Where is that? Google Docs. Come on, drive. This thing's still downloading. shared with me. Sorry. DLF. It's got to be this. Yes. God, you already uploaded?
Oh yeah.
My God, man. How did you do that so fast? Mine's still exporting.
Oh, I don't use whatever you guys use.
You don't use Audacity?
No, I use the voice recorder on my PC. It's just called voice recorder, and it's so fast. Those guys all use that stuff, and it saves the instant it's like saving as you go.
Really?
Yeah, so it works so much.
What kind of computer do you have? HP or what?
Yeah, I have a Dell. I don't know. I'm not super.
I know that's I have a Dell. I don't know.
I have a Dell, but it's not a Mac. You know, it's not an Apple or whatever those.
Right, whatever those are.
Yeah, I tried that one day, and that was enough of that.
Really?
Yeah,
they're too expensive for me, man.
I didn't like it.
I hope this works. I've usually had to do this like twice before it lets me. Let's see. Come on, big money.
I gotta put this in documents. DLF.
Damn it. Why does it do that? I don't understand. I just have to do it twice. I don't get it. Oh well.
Every time?
Every time, man. And I have to like wait forever for it to do it. And I have no idea why. Like I just do it again and then it works. So I don't know. I will download this and send it in there, and we'll be set.
Hey, dude. I'll send Erin a message to let her know it's there.
Sounds good, buddy. Good chatting with you, man.
Yeah, you too. Later.
All right, bud.